the bank access at the one bank has been changed. Up until June 14th, somebody was still accessing it online and ordered debit cards for one of the accounts and turned on one of the debit cards that was shut off.
The computer, the hard drive, and they had a computer dedicated to it. And that's the one that cracked. So it should be
because of the very fact that it's a litigation matter, and you should be dealing with counsel on that.
I'm still in Otter Creek, putting up fences to protect my property, and still trying to protect the people in Town Hall. Let me get you up to speed what's happened so far in this meeting. We set up a brand new sound system. Don the Con refused to wear his microphone as we were testing sound for the attorney Warm to make sure that they could hear and that he could hear.
It's not 7 o'clock yet, dude.
You are something else. You are literally something else. And then Gail took off her microphone in protest because she was offended that I put a camera in Don's face. The camera forced Don to actually wear the microphone, or he would not have worn the microphone that night. These are the two people who can't hear. We're doing a sound test. They're the ones that complain they can't hear. They both refuse the microphones. This is like childcare. Then out of the blue, Russ The Suss comes into Town Hall. Russ The Suss actually showed up. Nobody sees that one coming. Plot twist. And sarcastically, the first time he speaks, he wants to talk about the salaries of the incoming clerk that's going to be hired. Sarcastically, as he looks at the crowd. It's all public information. The first time any information has been given to the public based off of Russell's recommendation, Russell told the people nothing.
So you saying we're gonna pay $25 an hour? Is that what you're saying?
No, sorry.
It's public on that.
Don the Con has argued with Madam Mayor Therese nonstop over whether we need a resume or an application for the clerk position. Now here's something we need to discuss in regards to Don. He has 2 felonies, one from 1982, one from 1987. Donald William Severino. Now I'm guessing there's only one of those guys in the world. Hopefully I have the right guy. If not, my apologies, Don the Con. You've conned the entire town. You have been illegally voting because you have a felony. You have been illegally sitting on the town council because you have felonies. And if I'm wrong, I apologize. I just don't think I'm wrong. Bigger issue over the resume and applications is there were 3 clerks. One of them, Angela, who was hired as the assistant clerk with a ran ad in the paper. And did she fill out an application? Yeah, she did. 2 lines. I was a babysitter. I worked at the counter at Herschel's. And Don's worried about a resume versus an application. Guess who hired him? The whole council. But you know what? Illegally, because they offered her the job before they even posted the job. All of what these people have done has been illegal. Then walks in Lynette, just screaming infectious diabetes. She's not wearing a mask. She's not 6 feet away from everybody, as she claims all over social media she has to do because her daughter has a life-threatening disease. She's yet to share that adoption paperwork with anybody about the daughter. But here's the point. She never, ever wears a mask unless she's gonna be the town clerk for Town Hall for Russ The Suss, because she has to live the lie out now. She has mask on never. Her daughter is around people all the time. It's all a lie. She solicits her daughter to try and raise money instead of getting a job like normal people. It's horrific. It's disgusting. Let's jump back into the town hall meeting. This was one of the most intense and anticipated meetings in the history of this town, and it just got started, and it's gonna get out of control.
Those will be the wages that we're talking about on the funds that we're paying these two here for the time, based on their wages. And then we'll go from there on into the new positions of the clerks will follow the same two-to-time wages. Okay.
And I will be more than happy for a clerk to get hired and not come in here and do any of it. So I'm not looking for a future as a clerk.
She wants her job back.
I'd like my life back.
So you saying we're gonna pay $25 an hour? Is that what you're saying?
No,
So
sorry.
that the public will know.
$20 an hour is what the job's gonna start out at, and then based on their experience and their levels of growing on it and time, work it up to 25 is the max, basically. But
For what we're gonna pay them for what they're doing.
$20 an hour and $15 an hour. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Like I said, I wouldn't expect to get paid
I think
anything more
that's what
than
Mary's was 15.
$15.50, but they can have the 50 cents.
Whatever it is.
Russell's not trying to be helpful here. Russell is sarcastically trying to get the information to the public, which remember, 85% of the people in the room are What the Hales fans. They're here to see the show because people cannot believe this. We had fans from Texas, and Russell's trying to go, they're going to get $20 to $25 an hour. He was paying Mary $15.50. Keep this in mind. Mary did nothing. Nothing. You're going to see further in this meeting, Mary did things for other people, mainly Russell, and while she was on the clock. That's theft. Mary did nothing getting $15.50 an hour from the town. You get a person that actually works, they're more than worth $20. They're more than worth $25. They're generating the income. They're getting all the financials and the reports in, which then brings in federal money, which brings in state money, which brings in county money. They're making you money. They are worth their weight in gold. And when I say they, I mean Madam Mayor Therese, and I mean Belinda.
Whatever the wage was is what we're doing. But Belinda's would definitely be 20, and I really certainly hope that she puts in, I think she already has put in for the type clerk position, or at least the bookkeeping portion of it.
There is a resume.
Yep, and I think that she is well qualified for the higher level
And
of
this,
that pay scale.
the clerk position needs to be split into two clerk positions, one for the financial side and the rest for the administrative side. And it should still equal the 30 hours, so it's not gonna go over what Mary was working.
I just can't understand why this new mayor is destroying my system. I had 3 clerks in there, 60 hours a week, paying over $4,000, and they did nothing.
Russell, wrap it around your head. Number 1, you need the right person. Number 2, that person cannot have control of all the finances. So Madam Mayor is absolutely correct. Finances need to be separated from everything else. Financial stewardship and financial security is fundamental in this position. It's checks and balances is what we're after here.
Either it can be 10 and 20, 15 and 15, either way it's gonna be 30 hours. That way you always have somebody to cover the other person should they not show up or they quit, like we're in the mess we're in now, we wouldn't be in that mess in the future if you have 2 people that are trained on everything. So going forward, that's the way it needs to be broken down.
I think the administrative side is the shift we need to get back to open Monday through Friday from 10 to 2. And as soon as we get that position filled, and that position is the administrative position, and then the bookkeeping would be based on the hours that she requires, due to the schedule she can provide us with, working in between her medical issues that she's working with at home.
I think if that's what you wanted to bring up, this meeting, it should have been on the agenda, did it just come up?
Do you want me
now?
to write a novel? Because it's in the agenda of what we're talking about. And again,
Well, what
if you would have been
for a
attending the
reason.
workshops about the clerk position, you would know all this already.
You think of what I'm thinking? Don only exists to sabotage anything and everything he's around. That's what he's attempting to do. This should be on the agenda. This should be on the agenda. It's on the agenda. Why didn't you read your agenda? You had your agenda a week before. We can tell who's really interested in this town and who isn't. Things are about to get heated up in here.
Well, workshops aren't a requirement.
If you're on the board and you're working towards doing things on the town, then you should come and discuss what needs to be done.
Well, that's what we have meetings for.
Once a month meeting when we're in the crisis we're in is not gonna fix things.
Well,
I'm sorry I'm putting you out so much.
you're not putting me out. The thing is, what is?
How do you think we're gonna get anything
Are
done?
you interrupting me?
I am.
Oh my goodness.
Madam Mayor is a better person and human being and a mayor than I could ever be. Because at that point, I would literally have stood up and physically picked Don up and threw him out the door. Now, George always tells me it's not worth it. In this situation, this circumstance, would have been worth it. Night in jail, week in jail, month in jail, I would have slept good. That would have been worth it. The one person who can't stop interrupting anybody, who's so rude to the mayor. Are you interrupting me? Oh, I would have loved to interrupt him at that moment in time. And that whole room was thinking the exact same thing I was.
Go on.
Wow.
I stand interrupted.
Okay, let it be noted.
Please. The attorney asked him about what are agendas for? The agendas are so we get the agenda, we know what we're gonna be discussing and what we're
Never
gonna be
had an
voting
agenda.
on. All of a sudden you bring up this out of the clear blue sky and so.
Have you read the agenda?
I certainly
There's no
read
clear blue
many
sky.
times. There's nothing about raising.
Okay, so now we're getting off topic and I'd like to reel it back in.
It's a distraction.
If, you know, if people would have been helpful, you wouldn't have had to pay these people all this money.
Russell gives Don an agenda that literally says, pay the bills, old business, new business. And then when somebody disagrees with him, adjournment. Everything's great. Madam Mayor Therese gives him an agenda that is literally a page long. Like, there's so much packed into this agenda. He's got a problem with it. He's got a problem with everything. He's got a problem with life. He's got a problem with felonies. He is illegally, to my knowledge, and correct me if I'm wrong, but he's illegally been voting and been seated on the council in the town. And if the town doesn't go after him, I'm gonna see if I can.
So is there any more about the discussion of splitting it into two? Because I'm pretty sure that way back when they hired Angela, this was the same reasoning, to hire two people, so that if Mary was out and anything happened, somebody would know what was going on. Am I wrong about that? Because that was what was said way back then.
And we voted on that, yes.
So, and it's not going more than the 30 hours that Mary was getting paid.
That's
We're
not the
actually
point at
using a
all.
lot less hours.
That's not the point, Teresa.
Okay, so do you want to help make things good, or are you just gonna knock everything down?
I'm not trying to knock everything down.
I'm trying
Why-
to move forward with something better.
Why, what's the reason for having an agenda for a meeting?
Oh,
What's the reason?
For you to read it.
Okay.
Maybe in Don's mind, he thinks agendas just exist for him to try and argue. Maybe that's his life. Maybe that's his life with Rosemary. Maybe that's what he's done his whole life. Maybe it's dementia. Maybe it's all the possessed, controlled substances that he's had in his life. I don't know what it is, but I know it's so wrong and it's so off and it's ridiculous. Again, childcare. I could literally open a daycare in Otter Creek and all of these people could be dropped off and, I'm not changing diapers or anything. Oh, wait, if I did, I know where we're going to dump them. That comes up even later. It's going to blow your mind.
Would you like to make a motion to add this question to the agenda so that we can make a motion to go on, so he doesn't have to die on this mountain?
Yeah, I would do that, but it is,
It
the
ain't
clerk's
funny.
position is listed.
It's pathetic.
The clerk's position is listed in the agenda.
Let me reemphasize. It's pathetic. Don's a problem. Russell is a problem. Mary was a problem. It's ridiculous that we have a town of people who don't care. It's ridiculous that we have individuals that have been placed in a position of power that want to live and think it's okay to live in utter filth and think it's okay to steal, to lie. It's just so wrong that this whole mentality covers over this area. And yet it's so right when you get a person like Madam Mayor Therese, you get a person like Belinda, you get the right people in the right seats on the bus, and this town will flourish once again.
We discussed, wages is part of that decision, of that. It's
Yes.
all the same. It ain't like it's isolated out, we can only talk about one sentence. It's all about the clerk
Okay,
position.
well, wait till we hit new business where it says splitting clerk position into 2 part-time positions, clerk/bookkeeper, okay? Because it's here.
Yes,
I was just bringing it up.
you bring up how you're going to.
Anyway,
separate
Let's
the
move forward.
responsibilities.
You have a second on the motion for you and Belinda to get paid. Do you want to vote on that?
You have a second. Sim made a motion to pay Belinda and Teresa, and Gail seconded it.
All in favor?
All in favor?
They need to be paid.
For
Thank you,
what?
Don.
Well, if it's down on the
Okay, thank you,
agenda.
Don. Now we're moving
It
on.
is on the
So is
agenda,
this
Donna.
unanimous before we go on to?
No, Don says no.
Don says no.
Okay.
Don says no. People who actually work don't deserve to get paid. People who are trying to save the mess that him and Russell created don't deserve to be compensated for their hard work. All right, so here's the deal. I'm saying no to Don as well. I'm going to do whatever I can. If these felonies have disqualified him, I'm going to do what I can to say no to Don, to remove him, to find him guilty, to make sure he doesn't ever get compensated again for sitting on a council seat. I'm going to go every stretch of the imagination that I can to say no to Don ever being compensated ever again.
Now we're gonna talk about the equipment disposal. There was a list made of all the old equipment. All the hard drives have been pulled out of the computers so they can be properly disposed of. Do I hear a motion to dispose of this equipment?
Is it ready to be disposed of?
Yeah, all the hard drives have been pulled. They're saved in the office. They will stay in the office, and everything is blank.
I'll make a motion that we go ahead with that.
Do I hear a second? All in favor? Unanimous.
Remember last month, Don wanted a full list of all this equipment before it gets disposed. Now, you didn't see the list, but that list was provided. So it's in a packet. If you look at the table, Don's filtering through all the papers. Don has more paperwork than he's ever had before. Now, when they would come to the meetings in the past, they would get things just put on the table before them. Normally, they didn't get much at all, if anything. And then they had to review it right then and there, and they had to vote and make a decision. They've had their packets. Don should have went through all this already. So at this point, thankfully, something is actually happening positive. There's a unanimous vote. Let's get rid of all the garbage that's been sitting there for 30, maybe even more years.
We do have, just before you go on, there was a motion on the floor, to look through the resumes, but that was nothing went past the motion.
We made a workshop throughout the week, so who wants to come in and go through the resumes can go.
So the workshop will go Monday through Friday, so people can come in and look at the resumes and we can set up interviews.
These workshops are open to the townspeople. Anybody can come in. Now, how much do you want to guess? Don did not show up. There's no way Don showed up the following day for the workshop. I haven't heard yet, but I doubt it. Seriously doubt it. Just like Don doubts everything, especially things that are already written on the agendas.
If all could, by next Tuesday, have we come through and spend more time going through on it, so that next week we can make a decision on the next step. Okay? Thank you.
Yeah, that's really important. The next thing we had was the bank access at the one bank has been changed. Up until June 14th, somebody was still accessing it online and ordered debit cards for one of the accounts and turned on one of the debit cards that was shut off. Now all the accesses online have been changed.
Mary, jail is scary. Remember, she batters me, she has pending charges, then all of a sudden she quits her job. Then she's found in the office, coming to the office by me, and then she's filmed in the office by another individual in the town. But in theory, she's not actually employed anymore. And the town hall shut down for 2 months. Then she has a historic stroke somehow, some way. Oh, by the way, there's those such as Lynette that say it's because of me, the stress that I caused her. No, it's because of the stress she caused herself by doing things like this. This is insanity. There's one person in town hall who had access to this information and passwords. And guess who it was? It was Mary. Mary's supposed to be in rehabilitation before her stroke. But what's Mary doing? Mary's accessing the bank accounts online. Mary's ordering more debit cards for herself. This is illegal at the highest level. Now you go, well, she used to work there. She doesn't work there anymore. None of the passwords were given. Russell doesn't have them. Russell doesn't have the brains to get into the actual accounts. His intellect isn't to that level. He's still using a flip phone up till recently. And here, Mary's supposed to have had a stroke, and she's so fighting for her life. Yeah, she's fighting for her life in rehabilitation, logging into the town accounts and ordering new debit cards for herself. Can anybody say she's corrupt?
We need money. How much are we gonna get?
I don't know why anybody would be accessing those accounts. So that's
Imagine
the
that.
update on that.
Can you share who had access to those accounts?
The online access was from the previous clerk. She was the only one who had online access.
Who was supposed to be in rehabilitation?
So,
And quit.
So the bank did say that we might look in the future into even changing our email address, because if that's the things that were gonna be going on.
so what did they do?
They went online and signed in on the bank accounts while they still had access to the online,
But
because
they had already quit.
Correct.
they weren't working here anymore. And the bank had shut off the debit cards. Well, they turned one back on and ordered another one.
Oh,
I don't
okay.
even know why you would do that, but
I know why. Mary is a pathological liar, and she is a thief. She's been stealing from me and from the townspeople.
Was anything purchased on it?
no, and the bank shut it all off, and
Is it traceable to find out who done that?
Absolutely.
they can find out from the IP address. So
Or we gonna pursue finding out?
I believe we should.
Well, here's the, I'll leave it on that.
Was there anything else about that?
No, I'm good on it.
Okay. The previously scanned documents, just to update you on that, they've been found in several different locations on different computers, but none of the stuff that was scanned in was labeled or named, unfortunately.
I'm gonna have to get you up to speed on this as well. It's Otter Creek, right? So you're used to this. Otter Creek isn't exactly up to speed on anything in regards to the law, what's right, what you should do, moral things, you know, stuff like that. And so they've been years and years and years and years behind on public records and documents that they legally have to provide and upkeep. So what they did, okay, what Russell did, they hired Angela, again, illegally. Norma started coming in, volunteering, then they started paying her, again, illegally. Any position has to be publicized, and then you have to take in applications. Oh, wait, Don. Okay, resumes. We can take resumes because their applications are a joke in the town. And so what they've been doing is scanning the records. Mary wouldn't let them do anything except scan the records. The scans would go into Mary's computer, into the office, and then they sat. They did nothing, pretty much just like Mary would do in there. Sit and do nothing. They paid over $4,000 a month of the townspeople money for projects that have not accomplished anything. Nothing's labeled, nothing's organized, nothing happened except people got paid to put a document on a scanner, and then the documents went in a box, and nothing is organized or labeled. everything has to be done again. And if that's not complete and total incompetence, and if that's not theft, I don't know what is. And who did the people of the town entrust all this to? Russ The Suss.
Sue us.
So, and then some of the file folders that were named are empty. So unfortunately, it seems like that whole process will need to be started over again, so you paid people to do that for no reason. Apparently the other people that were hired were not allowed access to the office and were told to just scan it to the computer in there, and then nobody followed through with naming it. And there was an $1,100 printer that was purchased in February so that it could sit in that corner and nobody would be allowed access to the office. We didn't need an $1,100 printer at the time. There was 2 working printers in the office, so we wasted $1,100 on a printer that wasn't needed.
I thought we needed that to scan. We was gonna scan all
The
those.
ones in the office scan, that worked fine.
You mean we all been duped by Mary? Printers are scary? Yeah, that's what pathological liars do. They dupe you, and then they steal from you, and others. And sometimes it's an entire town.
So we did not need that, nor did we need one. If you were gonna buy one, you certainly didn't need an $1,100 printer.
When we voted on it, we was told they wasn't working, so.
Yeah, they were.
Mary wasn't.
Or they needed 2 to scan, that's what it was. They needed 2 people to be scanning at one time, so that's why we did that.
There is two scanners
Yeah.
in there already.
Yeah.
But the assistant clerk stated their purpose was, it was purpose for them, so they wouldn't be in it, they couldn't come in the office. And they were shut out from all the business going on in the
So I
office.
just wanted to
So
let
can
you
we
know
return
that.
it?
She was working
I wish. I just wanted to let you know that.
Okay.
on her own.
People need to be more vigilant on what's
What
getting
we're
purchased
spending,
and
yes.
what's the real story, because that wasn't needed.
Caught that, right? I'm not the only person that Mary has kicked out of town hall. Remember, that room in the corner, that's town hall. The big room, that's the library. The room aside to it, that's a garage, that's storage. Town hall is that room. Mary wasn't just keeping me out, Mary was keeping her own assistants out, who were supposed to learn and train in her job, and all she did was told them scan documents. Why? Is it because she needed the money that bad? She wanted to make sure she was the only one that was getting paid for doing nothing?
And it seems like people have no problem with wasting money on certain things, but don't want to pay for other things, and I don't really understand any of that. But moving forward, what else? The pending lawsuit, we're still trying to find the files to provide. The audio files have not been recovered. Those are missing from the office. There's different things, and it's hard to try to gather up these things for the lawsuit when we have so many other deadlines for things as well. So that's still ongoing, just to let you know.
Let's get back up to speed on the lawsuit. Russ says sue us. So I did. First lawsuit is all based on records request. For 3 years, I've been making a records request in regards to the water bills and the charges and the ordinances and the bylaws and the resolutions. And what did Mary give me? Absolutely nothing. Except she did give me one new illegal resolution. Once I went to pay my bill one time and she told me, oh, I mailed this to you. No, she never mailed me anything. Didn't send it certified, has no receipt of it. Again, pathological liar. So what I've done is I've filed a suit. I made a public records request. I emailed it, and I publicly stated it at a town hall meeting where Russ The Suss tried to have me removed by 3 sheriffs, which they said, They did not provide the records. And the reality is this, because they won't. They're self-incriminating records. And so what my lawyer has been told by the town's new lawyer is that these records are missing. Well, where do you think they went? They went with Russ out the door. That's where they are. Russ is in big trouble. No doubt about it. So you're in trouble if you don't provide them. You're in trouble if you don't have them. Everything after this, any future lawsuits, we're going to follow from the records. For example, I can sue them for what they're doing illegally with the resolution. They have targeted me specifically in this town and charged me a different rate than everybody else. Everybody else pays one rate. I pay a different rate. And you say, Jeremy, do you have proof? Yes, I do. I'm not ready to release that yet because it's part of the courts. All right, it's part of the actual lawsuit. It is an email from Mary to the town lawyer, and it's a comment, okay? And then I can sue them for what they're not doing. They legally have to uphold all ordinances, code enforcement, you name it. They have to do it, and they don't. They do nothing. That's why the good old boys want to be in control, so that they can get away with doing nothing, and there is no accountability. And as Don says, having my yard a mess and having my dogs go wherever they want, that's called freedom. That's democracy.
And there's some copies of the minutes and stuff are missing of the meetings at various times.
Yeah, it seems like for some reason, the time periods that were requested are missing from this building. So I don't know if those were things that were taken out of here or not.
Things that make you go,
We have the device that it was recorded on, however, correct?
No, it's a crash device.
Well,
Nothing was recovered audio file wise from any of the hard drives.
that sounds like someone should be able to retrieve that stuff.
It sounds more like someone deleted it.
Maybe the person that took it out of the building
Even when
should
they delete
retrieve it.
stuff, it can still be recovered. I think you should make
The recording
big
device
effort
was a tape.
to recover that stuff. It's very important.
There was recovery, the recording devices was a tape, and the tapes are not here.
The tapes aren't.
Yeah,
They're not here.
Well,
And that recorder was.
that was like about at least over 5 years ago.
They have older ones in this building,
Yeah.
but not those. So I'm just saying that those are missing, so we're still trying to get all those things together.
who took stuff from town hall?
That, my friends, is the face of guilt. Immense, tremendous guilt. Everybody knows where it went. It went with Russell. Now, in the courts, how are we going to prove it? Well, there's a lot of ways to do that. And I'm not giving up by any stretch of the imagination. So we're going to go all those routes. It's going to be a long, hard road.
So I just want to keep you informed of the progress or lack thereof.
He took plans.
The
So
different
you're saying over 5 years ago was missing?
Over 5 years ago, when they did cassette tapes, then they got the new digital recording devices. And that's
You're
to the
talking about
computer,
something
the hard
like
drive,
litigation.
and they
Now,
had
the
a
attorney that's
computer
representing you in that litigation,
dedicated
if
to
you were
it.
here,
And
would
that's the
tell you
one
that
that
it's not
cracked.
appropriate to
So it should
discuss
be
it because of the very fact that it's a litigation matter. And you should be dealing with counsel on that, not making it a public issue.
Thank you.
I keep people informed.
That's my mayor. You heard that, right? I keep people informed, and they need to know. And she's telling them, regardless of Attorney Worm saying, hey, just talk this over with your lawyers, just talk amongst counsel. There's nothing that was shared in that room that is going to make any difference in the litigation of the case. Nothing at all. And everybody in that room knows that Russell took it. It's just a matter of finding out where it is. That's the case. That's the issue. And our mayor, who I'm extremely proud of, our mayor says, I keep people informed. That's my mayor.
Now we're moving on to the nuisance dogs with the animal control and the update of that. So in order to have an animal control officer, you're required to complete a 40-hour minimum course, and that is $550. And as I've looked in the things going back and forth in conversations with the previous clerk and lawyers and whatnot, they said that unless we were gonna have a facility to keep the animals, that wouldn't be something we could afford to do.
Pretty sad to live in a neighborhood for individuals who don't care enough about their animals to actually take care of them. They roam free. They use the roads to lay in and sleep in. Our tax monies didn't pay for those roads to be obstructed by your animals, your personal pets. You don't care about the people traveling your roads. You don't care about your pets. And now we have to pay somebody to take care of those problems. As a matter of fact, some of those pets are attacking the local residents. Who do you think the biggest offender is? Don the Khan's family. Don the Khan's family. But there's random dogs and pets all over Otter Creek. It's not okay. It's not okay for the people traveling through. It's not okay for the neighbors when those pets and those dogs bite and attack. And it's not okay for the safety of the animals either.
So at this point, Levy County has told me if we drop off animals there, they'll accept them. So going forward, at this point, I think the only thing we could do is to hire a dog catcher, trapper to come in periodically and get rid of the animals. Also, as citizens, you can pick them up and take them to the pound yourself. But some of them are aggressive, and they said if they're coming after you, and you have to do what's necessary to protect yourself. So we'll look into having a dog catcher come in certain amount of times during the week to catch these animals, because I know everybody has been tired for years. This has been a problem, and everybody's been complaining for years. So I will have someone start coming in for that. Any discussion on that?
What about an interlocal agreement with the county? They have those facilities, they have the manpower, they have the vehicle. Why don't we make an interlocal agreement with them to take care of the
That's not part of the agreement.
They said they're not gonna come out here and pick them up, but we can bring them to them.
Interlocal agreement. No doubt you have some questions. So here's what it is. Whenever you have a town that incorporates, such as Otter Creek, even though it's a town of 100 people right now, they are responsible for providing services for the people. If they're not incorporated, such as Golf Hammock right down the road, the county is responsible for providing all those services for the people. So Otter Creek, since they couldn't afford to provide services, they made an interlocal agreement with the county. And all it was is the county would come in and do building permits. So you have all other kinds of things. Code enforcement. Who's supposed to be doing code enforcement for garbage? That would be the town of Otter Creek. Can they afford it? We're going to find out. Who's in charge of dog control, pet control, all of that? That would be the town of Otter Creek. And the list can go on and on and on. When there's an illegal turtle sanctuary, who's in charge of that? When there's illegal campers and people illegally living in sheds, who's in charge of that? So in the past, they had an interlocal agreement, as some other towns did as well with the county. But the county is putting a squish and squash to that. They're going, we don't want anything to do with Otter Creek. This is normal. Most people want nothing to do with Otter Creek. As I shared in the beginning, it is literally like a daycare. It is babysitting adults. And it's real. It's hard to believe, but it's real. And government agencies don't want anything to do with it because it's so crazy. Businesses don't want anything to do with it because it's so crazy. You think that the people of Otter Creek would actually go, we got a problem and we've got to fix it. Right now, the county has said, you do have a problem because we're cutting off the agreement. We're not going to do anything for you anymore. Now what's going to happen is the town of Otter Creek is going to be responsible for policing services, fire services, code enforcement. It's going to be dog control. And the list goes on and on and on. Their other option, unincorporate. And what does that do? It means the county takes care of everything. Probably the smartest thing this little town could ever do. Unincorporate.
So they don't want to do an agreement.
Because we're a city.
Yeah, we're a city, so we should be doing this ourselves. But we don't have the money to have a facility.
For us to provide the services that the county provides, our tax level will have to be the same as what the county charges.
Well, okay, I just thought that.
But we can send someone to school
Yep.
and they can come in, pick them up and take them there.
We have
What
to
you're
provide.
Or we can hire somebody who catches
has already
dogs
done it,
and
yes.
hire them like once a week to come in
And pick them up and take them
and
off.
do that, so, I don't know.
Or at least on call, and problem is, time that someone travels here to get the dogs already gone from where they report to being at, so it's kind of, has to be on the spot.
But if you wanna look into hiring the dog catcher, trapper,
License. Correct.
Or you could save the town money and then everyone just keep your dog.
well, that
on
would
a
be
leash
ideal
or-
if everybody kept their animals in their house, but unfortunately, that's not what's going on. And hasn't been for years. And a lot of people, yes, also like to dump their animals in this town, unfortunately. It's sad.
Even when the previous clerk got attacked by a dog, just delivering a notice to someone that trying to help him pay the water bill, and got attacked, and she got beat up pretty bad. It was rough, it was horrible.
So at this point, I think we need to finally do something about it. So do I hear a motion that we hire a dog trapper?
I make a motion, we hire a dog trapper.
Do I
Allow-
hear a second?
Yeah.
Get it, Gail.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor?
Wonderful.
Unanimous on that one?
I love it, Gail. You're my neighbor and you're my friend. And we both agree there are way too many dogs up and down our road and all the other roads in Otter Creek. And Gail's taking a stance, and she's taking a stand, and she's going, I make the motion. She didn't second, she first it. And that's a big thing because family is one of the biggest offenders in the town. So I'm proud of her. She always does what she thinks is the right thing for the town. Whether she agrees with me, it doesn't matter. She's the one in the position. It's what she thinks is right for the townspeople. And I'm proud that she takes a stand and she takes her job seriously.
Okay, and the AT&T phone service with the internet, there was a lot of wasted costs there. So I did call them up and they were offering 2 cell phone lines with internet for $169 a month, where we're currently paying over $500 a month right now for 2 internet lines and 2 business phone lines. However, they wouldn't hook them up because we can't prove we're a business. So we have to look more into another company. But for now, we canceled one of the lines and we canceled the other internet line. I'm not sure why they ever had the other internet line, because it was originally, from what I understand, supposed to be a public internet service, but they didn't like that the neighbors were using it. So they made it private, so it was just sitting there, not even in use, at $100 a month over a 3-year period. That was $3,600 that was wasted. The other phone line that was for faxes, which nobody even faxes, and is not needed, $150 a month for over 3 years, $5,400 was wasted. So that was a total of $9,000 wasted. So in the meantime, one of the DSL lines was canceled and one of the phone lines has been canceled, and I'll continue to look for a service, I guess, outside of AT&T. So we've cut the cost in half for now. Yes?
May I ask a question? I don't know if this would be a consideration or not. Hopefully the attorney's listening on that. But you can go to Straight Talk.
Yes, someone did tell me about that this week.
You can do
so I
that.
do have a few things to look at. Mhm.
And it's month to month, unlimited, and you get a box for $99. You have to own the box. And when you own the box, you now have month to month, unlimited, no time restraints. And you can renew it ahead of time and gain credit.
Yeah, yeah. I have
And
them
it's
on the
totally
list.
legal, business or residential. I have the system myself. I live in one of the worst areas there is for Straight Talk signal.
There's the face of a man who doesn't like straight talk, real talk, because this meeting is about how he destroyed this town and how we have to rebuild it and repair and heal from it.
And I get anywhere from 75 megabytes per second, if anybody knows anything about internet speed. And, huh?
Anything is better than what we currently have, because
Well,
we
I
have some really
currently
bad
was on
internet.
AT&T, and I was only getting 6 megabytes per second. So you can see the.
Appreciate that.
I mean, you might want to consider it. It's totally
Oh, yeah,
legal.
I do have that on the list to look at this week.
We tried to get that here in Otter Creek,
It didn't work, okay.
don't have service.
Okay.
Lynette, in all of her wisdom, she knows everything about firefighting. She knows everything about fire hydrants. She knows everything about cloth diapers. She knows everything about disposable diapers. She knows everything about Russell, about Mary, about being a victim. Oh, by the way, she knows nothing about Straight Talk. She just said it doesn't work in Otter Creek. It absolutely does. We've been using it for well over 3 years now. Everything runs from the tower. Where I have my box from the tower is further away than where she would have it. It absolutely works. You want to know what doesn't work in Otter Creek? Lynette and John the Crook.
How about I'll bring my box out here and we try it?
Sure.
You're welcome to come.
Yeah, we appreciate
If
that.
it works, then
Bring it on, we'll plug it up, we'll see if it works.
Yeah.
I'll buy a second one. And you can have the second one.
We'll know right there if it's something you look into if it works.
I'll be happy to do that.
All right.
When's this workshop we're talking about?
Monday through
Monday through
from
Friday, 10 to 2.
Am I allowed to come in here unannounced?
You can.
You can, but you can't participate in any of the council
Oh,
conversations.
no, I wouldn't want to do that.
Yeah.
That might get out of hand.
Now it's your
And I wouldn't want to do that.
Now, this is about. We've got some repairs we gotta do at both plants. Plant number one is obviously the motors we talked about earlier. And I believe we talked about those because it was part of one of the bills that was outstanding. There is a,
Zim's now talking to us about our water. And here in Otter Creek, we don't have a functioning filter system right now. And that's not okay for anyone. And who's responsible? That's right, Russ The Suss. Now, I've done a full tour of the water plants, and you can find that in the Otter Creek playlist. If you jump on the channel and you go to videos, you'll find playlists. You can go to that tab. There's hundreds of videos in Otter Creek. Yeah, it's going to blow your mind if you look at all this. Here we are with Russ The Suss sitting on and just sitting there, yeah, you're the reason we don't have clean water, and it's bad.
it's gonna take some redoing of some lines to get the pumps back in there and get them so they can't get air. The new pumps suck so much faster and so much more water than the old pumps that we had. It might even be, it's probably gonna expand into the actual tank that we're drawing the water out of isn't deep enough to create the cavitation of sucking air from the water, because these new pumps are pulling, I mean, like, it's like hooking a vacuum cleaner up to a big high-powered vacuum cleaner, sucking the water out of that tank. Have you ever seen in a pool how by the drain, the little whirlpool, and it starts sucking air through there? So it's getting air through that. And we're not certain that how much air is coming from there. We're not certain for how much. There's a couple of leaks in the line that could be some of those. We don't know. But replacing that line and getting it reset up will get the leaks fixed and get the pumps lower, so they're at least to the bottom of the tank level. So it gives us a little bit more gravitational level. The other side of this is the head pressure is so high on the pumps that the pumps themselves are separating the air out of the water. It's running so hard, because when it runs through the system, pushing it against the filter system, it's only allowed to take 35 gallons a minute, and the pumps are pumping 55 gallons a minute. So it's gaining 20 gallons a minute. And it don't take 20 minutes, and now you're sitting there at 100 PSI or more, and that pump's sitting here deadheading, because it's just seeping past at this point. It's creating its own separation inside the pump, separating the air and the ears, and the pumps are running dry because the air is getting the air in, and that's what's running the pumps.
Anybody else wondering where Don's mind is right now? I bet he's thinking back to the 80s. Man, the 80s. Yeah, I had some good stuff back then. What's he talking about pumping? Yeah, I used to pump it up. Here's what's basically going on with the water. It was plumbed wrong, and it's sucking air. And pumps that suck air break. They have to have water, no air. And therefore, we don't have water that's filtered. And to get our water pumped to all the homes, we have to have pumps that work. We have one pump working, we have one that's not. We have another issue with that pump. We're dead out of water. We're drowning. You know, there's probably some water cliche right there. We definitely aren't jumping in feet first, that's for sure. We're dry as bones. How about we'll just go with bones instead of water. Don's probably thinking about bones in the 80s too, man.
There's been 3 pumps now, that's right? We went through all three of them? 2 pumps, one was repaired already? And both of those are the ones that are in the shop, right?
They, yeah,
Okay.
they repaired that pump under warranty, but,
Right.
Barney's pumps come 4 times, and they did not tell us that. We had a professional, Nature Coast Utilities, install that pump. He does pumps up to 100 horse.
Yeah.
And Barney's pumps come and looked at it, and if there was a problem, they should have told us to start with,
Right.
instead of letting the pump mess up.
Right, well, I kind of went at them about that, because I felt that same way. But their clarification is that they sell pumps, they don't design systems, and that's kind of how they kept falling back on that.
Their Barney's pumps guy from Jacksonville and Mr. Badger, which was part of Otter Solutions, got together, and they're the ones that come up with those pumps. Barney's pumps was involved
Right.
with that.
Oh, I'm not doubting it. Now it's just everybody's trying to backtrack and keep themselves out of it. That's all that's happening, I see.
They're trying to get out of warranty, and that's what they're trying to do.
Old Barney ain't the only one trying to get out of some warranty or get out of some stuff there, are they, Russ? It's time for Russ The Suss to throw the plumbing and anybody else with a pump under the bus. He's going to throw Mary under there, Laura Mott under there, any pump company, any plumbing company. Listen, we already know who plumbed it. We already know who did it wrong. We already know who the problem is. Here we go. Russ is trying to get out of this. He ain't helping the town. All he's done is hurt the town.
Definitely are out of the warranty on it. They're saying that is definitely not happening. But the system, we have to put a variable speed control on it that works off of the pressure so that it slows itself down automatically, which is about $5,000 or $6,000 for one of those. And then you gotta have a pressure sensor inline, and you still have to have a diaphragm system for it to give, so that pressure fluctuation in the system is not so dramatic when it changes over. When it slows down, we gotta have the back pressure so that it keeps the pressure consistent through the system. But all this stuff, how high tech we can make it can only pump 1,000 gallons, and it's got to stop. And that's all the system can produce in water.
Normally in a situation like this, I would suggest a 2-inch pipe. But Russell already got jealous of my 2-inch pipe. He took that 3-inch pipe, put it down to a 2-inch pipe. That's how jealous it was. You had a 3-inch pipe. Come on, Russ.
Because it'll suck it out of there, and it'll be gone, so it's got to shut down and wait for the filter system to catch back up and then do it again. So every time we call for water over here, I'm guessing that demands about, 2,000, 3,000 gallons of blow that cuts on? 3,000? So when it calls for a demand, it needs 3,000 gallons of water. We can only send it 1,000 gallons, and we've got to stop and wait for the filter system to catch back up. And we got to do it again. And now grant you, everyone can vouch that this system that we're waiting on is ancient. It's 80 years old, or 75 years old. And the iron side of the system it's falling apart. I mean, it is literally, the rusting is getting so bad inside of it, it's clogging up and clogging up and clogging up. And we're only going to be able to beat that loose in there so long before it busts something inside of it. And we're going to be sitting here with no, we're drinking the water out of the creek. And that's where it's going to come from, because that's, that system, it may be old and antiquated, but it does work. It's just slow. But it is, today's standards is way different than that now. So we definitely gotta look at working on the iron filters, getting that corrected, because we're fixing to be stuck with that. I know it's been opened up multiple times and fixed and unclogged inside of it. It's gotten down now, you have to go down that pipe, and you can only get something in there so high. You can only go down about 4 feet inside that shaft going down to clear it. And we're at the maximum depth to go down to clear now from what we can get in there without taking the whole thing apart. And if you take the whole thing apart, I assure you, you won't get it back together. It'll fall apart. It's just so that is something we're gonna have to look into, continue on with the water system. But hopefully, next month, we get news back on the water line system, when that's coming through, or an estimated time, so we can see what we need to do. We don't wanna spend a bunch of money fixing old equipment if it's less than a year. The water system, supposedly the money's there to pay for it, but getting it all organized and coordinated is something else. It's a big adventure. It's not just us. It's all the way to CQ, it's the one in English. You know, that's, I think it was about 70 miles of pipeline we got put in, of water main, and 70 miles line of sewage return line. Put in at the same. So, the good thing is when that water comes on, it goes on board, it gives us a place to build a lift station. Now we can send sewage back, right? But that's all that's.
Thank you for taking this on.
You know, it was the water management people, I guess, is who jumped in and started it, wasn't it? Yeah.
Water management.
Yeah, and pushing it through, and we hopefully it all works out for everybody, and everyone gains from it. I know that I'm saying we gotta fix these things, but I think we need to look at this time frame before we start spending money on fixing too much.
So in a nutshell, we got bad water, and it's a mess, and we need clean water from Bronson, and we're waiting for money, waiting for water lines, waiting for sewage. We're waiting for a lot of things.
And these pumps, maybe we might just have to patch this thing through just so we can make the filter guys system work. Because here's what we're facing with them. They're not threatening it, but you hear the tone. They've got a lot of money spending that, and they can't operate it. And the town is obligated ourselves for them to invest that money. We have to provide them the water for it to work. And otherwise, now we're liable for their lawsuit. And so we need to get that back online as quick as we can. Trying to minimize the expenses. Basically, next month we should be able to decide, is it gonna be a long-term thing or a short-term thing on the pipeline? And if it is short-term, let's patch this thing through just enough to get these guys satisfied so they're not suing us before this line comes through. Because once the line comes through, we're probably not gonna need their system either. And this was all after the fact now. That's no one's fault in the past that was pursuing this, because the pipeline thing came in after that was pursued. I know, there's only one officer.
You should have one in there.
Oh, yeah, it says July there. Oh, yeah.
Town hall meeting is about to take a drastic turn because we were talking old business. Now Madam Mayor is going to take us into new business. It's an uprile between Lynette, Don the Con, Russ the Suss. It just never ends in Otter Creek.